Now we just got to shut up. Stop talking.
Do I sound okay?
You sound like you always do.
Like a pro.
I got these little headphones. If I jam them into my ears, they get bassier.
Earbuds. I call them hearing loss funnels.
Mm-hmm.
Do they cause hearing loss?
Sure.
Can you turn my...
Is that why my ears are so bad?
Oh, your headphone down or up?
Down.
Down your number 3, I think.
Yeah.
Is that better?
That's too much. Little better. Little more.
A little more up.
That's
is louder.
Yeah.
Is that good?
Just up a little bit. Okay.
It's got clicks, so I can click it up.
Nah.
One more click?
No.
Okay. Oh, I have one of these book lights.
Little light. Just in case I can take notes during the movie if we turn the lights down.
I've been reading my Francis Ford Coppola book with that light, except mine is white.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Does yours change colors, like amber and
Mm-hmm. Temperature, color, temperature,
Yeah,
and brightness.
yeah.
Wow, that's a nice light.
You clip it on a book. It's amazing.
Welcome to Lost and Bound and Rewound, a podcast where since the start of the podcast, one of us has gotten really old, while two of us keep looking the same age. I'm old Chris Lost.
What makes you think you look older?
I feel older.
What is that called? Like a thirst trap? Is that what that is? It's not that. A thirst trap is when you have like a attractive picture of yourself and you're trying to get compliments. But what you're doing is you're putting yourself down in order to get compliments.
No, I don't want
Chris,
you to
you don't
tell
look
me.
old.
No, that's not what I'm asking
No,
you to
Chris,
do.
Chris. You look good.
Well, that's a little creepy.
You're looking good.
I'm old Chris Lost.
I'm good old found Jim. Good old.
And I'm brand new Rick Rewound.
New and improved.
New and improved.
2.0. Speaking of 2.0, we're hot into this second season. Just burning through the second season now.
And you're using kind of the metaphor of hot as if we've left a pot on the stove for 3 months and it's kind of burning. That's what you mean by hot.
Right. Yeah, the house is burned to cinders at this point, given the distance between the first and... But we are trying to do this sequentially. Even the fast forwards we're trying to do sequentially. That was my hope. And we're in your childhood home. Right?
And,
did you
and the
guys grow
hope
up
of
here?
doing it sequentially is that it would be better for us, like sort of cognitively, like our memory would be great. But then we just had a whole long discussion about what it's called, what this part of the episode is called. We couldn't remember that. So even though doing everything in order, it's not helping. We're still confused.
Well, we were going to be confused. Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
But yes, it's our childhood home.
Oh, so you both were you born? So you, as babies, you were carried across the threshold here?
No.
From the
no,
hospital?
Just me.
Just you.
I'm a Chicagoan. I was born in Chicago.
We're all Chicagoans, right?
No, I was born in Chicago. I was born in the city. I'm a city boy.
You were a street kid. You used to run the streets.
Not one of those suburban kids.
Beverly. The mean streets of Beverly.
Well, good for you, Rick.
South Side.
That's right.
Well, you are tough. So maybe that's where it comes from.
That's why I'm always wearing the White Sox hat, shirt, long shorts. I got the White Sox plate on my car. I actually saw that today. Somebody had a White Sox plate, and I thought to myself, I really like the black plate with white text. Could I get a White Sox plate even if I don't care about baseball? What would happen is I'd like the way it looked, but then I would wind up getting into conversations with people about sports, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go Sox.
Yeah, exactly.
What's your name? Rick?
Rick.
Nice to meet you. You like the Sox?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Hey, what do you think about getting some more relievers this year?
You know what? I really love what that Bill Veeck is doing with the team.
Who's that?
That's the last time. That's actually, I never been to a Cubs game. I went to a Sox game when I was a kid, or twice, I think. Terrifying also because went to the urinals and it was just troughs.
Oh, yeah.
It was total old school, the old stadium.
Yeah.
And then, Bill Veeck was the
Comiskey
owner.
Park?
Kaminsky Park.
Is it Kaminsky or Comiskey?
I
think it's Comiskey.
That's a South Side joke. Sorry.
Jules. We stopped off
Jules.
at Jules.
Oh, yeah, I
to
wouldn't
pick
know.
up some.
You're Southsider. I forgot about that. My big joke is that when people ask why I'm a Royals fan, I say, well, my National League team is the Cubs, And when Chicago gets an American League team, I'll root for them. But then until then,
whoa.
it's the Royals. I went into a store in Oak Brook shopping mall, and it was called Everything Socks. And I said, "Do you have any Cubs stuff here?" And the guy goes, "No, it's all socks. It's called Everything Socks." I was like, "All right." And you know what Everything Socks is? How would you classify it?
It's just socks. Like, actually, literally, they just sell socks?
No, is it? No, it's a Chicago business.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
Chicago business.
Remember
Okay,
my
this
TV
is
show?
Sure.
Yeah, that was
not
last
as-
season, right?
Was it
It
last
got
season?
canceled. I heard it got canceled.
I see those Chicago nights on NBC now, and they're still running them. It's like Hope, Fire, and Cops or Blue or whatever it is.
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
like, where's business?
Yeah.
It's missing.
Well, what I heard is that Warner Brothers just did a full season, right? And then they just decided to burn it and take the loss, right? That's what I
Chicago
heard.
business?
Yeah, Chicago business.
We did it on the lot. We shot it on the lot.
They just burned it and took the loss instead of investing any promotional
Hey,
money.
I got paid.
All right, man.
It was like that
Good.
lost season of Drew Carey where they shot it but didn't air it, and they all got paid for it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I was working on the lot when they were shooting that. They're like, we're in the useless season of Drew Carey. They were having a party. I think it made a DVD or something.
Nice.
Speaking of watching things, let's talk about what we've watched. Rick, what have you watched
Since, 6 months ago?
since our last episode?
I'm just going to pick a few things because a lot of it is, I have, Killers of the Flower Moon on here, and that came out, 6 months ago, right?
I haven't seen it yet.
I'm going to focus on a couple of the independent films that I watched because I'm starting to really enjoy that. I'm realizing that either I'm old or that kind of classic, what I would call classic indie film, I'm missing. So Showing Up, it's a Kelly Reichardt film with Michelle Williams, Judd Hirsch, Amanda Plummer. It was about a artist preparing for a show, slow and talky, people being moody kind of movie.
A cheap film.
Yeah, but great. I loved it.
Was there fire in it?
There was no fire in it.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Even cheaper.
There was firing of ceramic sculptures.
Oh, well, that's expensive.
Yeah.
You need somebody on set to make sure that doesn't
Yeah.
go wrong.
And then I watched You Hurt My Feelings with Julia Louis-Dreyfus. It's just I'm trying to remember who directed that. Just a funny movie about a woman who's a author, novelist, and then she overhears her husband criticizing her new book that she's been writing.
That one hit kind of close to home there, Rick?
I did not that it hit close to home.
Your
It's-
wife
it's-
wrote a book, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But it didn't make me feel bad, and I didn't criticize it, at least publicly. No, that's but it's also she's also teaching, right, and dealing with students, an older creative person dealing with stuff. But it also has stuff about male vanity, which is really funny. I thought I'm really into that. I think male vanity because it's something
You're really
that's
into yourself?
yeah. I'm realizing it's something that's not talked about a lot. We're starting to get into an era where you can talk about it. There's some funny stuff about that.
You've never heard the Carly Simon song,
You're so vain.
You're So Vain?
Yeah, exactly. But that's
It's about male vanity.
Yeah, it is, but it's not.
That's not current.
Yeah, that's true. Retrograde, which there are a couple of retrogrades that came out recently, but this one is about. I believe it's a Canadian film. It's about a young woman who gets a traffic ticket and then tries to contest it, and it's just her going through. It's like a very small version of Kafka's The Trial, except totally, sort of just like everyday problems and bureaucracy, but then also just interactions with your roommates and people. It's just like a 20-something going through a couple of days in modern society, and it's just kind of like a nightmare. It's like a horror film for like introverts, or people who are like me, who are get frustrated with interactions and then systemic bureaucracy and right and wrong. Just like trying to fight a traffic ticket.
That sounds great.
I loved it.
I'm trying to think. I watched something recently where it was a movie or something where that was the case, but it just kept. I'm not going to remember it, but it was like a cascading set of events that never got better and ended horribly. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, and this film has kind of a sense of dread throughout, but it's just a slice of life kind of reality. And that's what I'm enjoying, right, is watching these films and realizing, oh, this is what, like a Jim Jarmusch film. We talked about this, I think, when we watched what was it? 2 years ago.
Mystery Train?
Mystery Train, right? Yeah, that kind of vibe of that independent film. I'm really enjoying films like that now. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention before I forget is this video game Death Stranding, very popular.
Yep.
Death Stranding 2's coming out. It's called Death Stranding 2 on the Beach, and I saw some sort of discussion about how it's a reference to this post-apocalyptic film. Fred Astaire's in it. It's from like 1959. It's about kind of a nuclear sort of war has happened, and all that's left is Australia. Like the radiation cloud hasn't hit Australia left, and there's an American battleship that's harbored in Sydney, I think. It's a really early nuclear apocalypse film. Anyways, there's a whole thing about, it's a reference to that. And then my kids are like sending screenshots and everything like that. And I'm like, this is not a reference to that. There's like a picture of a woman standing on a beach with like a huge nuclear like mushroom cloud. And I'm like, this is the Quiet Earth. And so the guy,
interesting.
yeah, the guy who's the creator, Kojima, I think is this his name?
He's the Metal Gear Solid creator, right? He got fired and then he went and did Death Stranding.
Yeah, and he's a huge film fan, and I'm like, no, I think he's referencing The Quiet Earth, and then I had my kids look at at least the preview for The Quiet Earth, and they were like, oh yeah, definitely. So I just thought that was kind of neat. It's
That's
a little
cool.
little callback to that was last season, right?
That was last season when we had guest star. That was a guest episode. Not
Oh,
an
that's
official
right.
Or was it an official episode? It was.
It
What
was.
happened was it was an official episode. We watched it here, but then we did the fast forward a couple years later with Tim Batt as our special guest.
Yeah, and I thought we weren't going to have these complex time jump conversations anymore.
Well, that was season 1. So
okay.
season 2.
When we reference season 1, then we still have to have the time jump conversation.
We do, yeah.
Okay.
We do.
Wow. So we did a post episode
Post fast forward, yeah.
a year after we had watched
Couple
it.
years, I think, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Maybe even a year. It was funny. I listened to the whole season. That's the other issue with this being so far. Episode 2 is I listened to the whole season so I could have all those facts fresh in my head. And now I've lost them all. I'll have to go listen to the whole season again. It is nice to have a chronicle of your friendship, though. I liked listening to that was the nice thing about listening to the season. We took that nice little vacation.
That's right.
That's all on tape.
So long ago.
It was so long ago. Anything else there, Rick?
It's been a while, but I watched Ragtime again. I really like that movie.
Any good?
It's great. It's because I had watched Amadeus. I had found a DVD. Like at the school, there's a table by one of the people who takes care of the building. They'll have like a table with stuff that people are just giving away. There was a DVD of Amadeus or an HD of Amadeus, and so I picked that up. Milos Forman, and then I watched Ragtime, which was also Milos Forman, which we saw in the theater.
Yeah.
I think it's the first movie with a Randy Newman soundtrack.
Really?
Like written, like, so we've talked about Cold Turkey, right? Or maybe do I want to watch Cold Turkey or make us watch Cold Turkey? But there's Randy Newman songs in like Cold Turkey. Ragtime is instrumental.
He wrote all
that music.
Wow.
Yeah, because his style was kind of ragtimey.
Yeah. Piano. Yeah. He's a piano player.
So I think it's the first soundtrack, like instrumental soundtrack he wrote, because it's the family business. But anyways, yeah, I really enjoyed it. Saw Ragtime when was that, like 1980?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think it really formed, a lot of my moral structure, or kind of the way I view the world, and about discrimination and injustice and systemic racism and non-systemic racism. There's a lot of just plain old-fashioned racism in that movie.
Interesting, because that's what Sanford and Son did for me.
Right. And I didn't watch Sanford and Son.
You didn't watch Sanford and
No.
Son?
But that's the thing about Sanford and Son, right? Is like Gary Shandling wrote a lot of those episodes. Who was it that was talking about that? Is like when it's in the Gary Shandling movie where was it Chris Rock or something was like, talking about, Chris Rock's not old enough, but it was like Sanford and Son. And then Gary Shandling goes, oh yeah, I wrote a bunch of those episodes, and he was like crestfallen. It's like Gary Shandling. It was just kind of like
The Pat Lawler is a video game designer, a pinball machine designer, and he designed Twilight Zone. He did, I think, Funhouse.
I remember that.
And he did Addams Family, like the big ones. His final game ever was Toy Story 4. And I've been playing, and you mentioned things with the Randy Newman soundtrack. This has Randy Newman all over it. And I've been playing massive amounts of Toy Story 4. And at first I thought it was terrible. It's been highly criticized. This is one of his worst games. It's a masterpiece. I've now come to realize that it is an absolute masterpiece, and you have to spend thousands of dollars playing it to really understand the genius of this man's work.
It's magnum opus.
It is. It really is. I'm absolutely love it.
Do you have the game itself, or do you have to go somewhere to play it?
No, I have one.
Okay.
Kansas City. Food-wise, once only known as a barbecue town. But thanks to the Taco the Town podcast, everything has changed. Kansas City has rightfully taken its place as a taco paradise, smack dab in the middle of the USA, and all of these tacos belong to us on the Taco the Town podcast. My name is W. David Keith, certified tacoholic, and I live a very taco-centric lifestyle. On the Taco the Town podcast, we're tasting every taco in the town. We shine a light on all of the taco-rific tacos Kansas City has to offer, unearthing great taco memories, checking the latest stories in taco news, and interviewing actors, reporters, chefs, politicians, and musicians about their love for tacos. If you love tacos like I do, you're gonna love Taco the Town. Available wherever you get your taco podcasts. A proud member of the Lotus Pod Podcasting Network.
Jim, what have you been watching?
YouTube. I'm just going to YouTube here. Agmios. He's this guy. Actually, there's kind of a link to this movie we're going to watch tonight. There's, the British comedian Alexei Sayle, who actually stars in the movie we're going to watch. And it's the reason why I chose this as the movie that we're going to watch. Why I chose it was because he was talking about it. He was doing a podcast recently, and he just was driving around with this guy who I didn't know at all, and who does YouTube videos, and his name is Agmios. Actually, I guess he had a TV show on BBC very briefly, but he originally started on YouTube, and he just drove around and it was like kind of Zen motoring, I think he calls it. And it's just him talking and driving in his car around London and being cool and drive nicely and not be complete psychopath and aggressive and whatever ADSMR videos, kind of like chill out him driving. I haven't really watched many of those, but he started doing recently Sunday League strolls. He just was into soccer, I think, when he was younger playing, and just recently he said, well, he introduced this series. It was like he's not watching professional soccer anymore, and so he's just going to the Sunday amateur games, it's called Hackney Marshes in London. So there are all these amateur leagues and stuff, and just playing, and he just basically is like a reporter. He's just covering these amateur games in London, but it's in his very laid back style. He's just completely chilled out, and he barely talks. He just talks very quietly. I can't imitate him, but it's very funny. They're just him just watching soccer matches and commenting, and then actually a couple of the episodes, it got really fancy. Like someone he knows has a drone and just brought the drone, and they started doing drone shots, and it was amazing. It just was took it to this whole other level and had these great shots of the game, because otherwise it's just generally him filming it on his phone. So it's not. It's just it's amazing. You can tell what's going on, but it's not about the game really. It's just his whole delivery and everything.
I thought I was into sports, and I kind of gave up all professional sports when my daughter was in soccer, because that's all we would do all day Saturday and Sunday. Mm-hmm. The best sport ever. It was the only thing I wanted to ever watch. And then it came down to her last season, and I was all geared up. I'm like, okay, this is going to be the last season. It's going to be a blast. I want to get every second out of it I can. Then the email came across, said, I can't find enough girls to field the team. We're not having a season. So it was stolen from me. So I can empathize with this. And also, a guy we should have on this show as a guest, Kevin, my friend Kevin from college. He spent years covering the sports in these local suburbs, covered LT and a bunch of high schools around here, and tells amazing stories about high school sports. So you can really see how someone could get into that.
Sure.
And be less cynical about sport.
Yeah, it's really entertaining. Oh, the other YouTube thing I got into it. This was a couple months ago. I haven't watched any recently, but it was like Ecuadorian soapbox racing, mountain soapbox racing. And again, amateur sports. It ties in with the Agmios thing.
You're into amateur sports now, Jim.
I guess so, yeah. Amateur racing. It's like...
And amateur sports coverage.
Right. Yeah, this really isn't coverage. This is like POV kind of... It's actually one of the racers. Like, he just posts his videos from GoPro, them just cannonballing down mountains in Ecuador. And just... It's amazing. It's really... this one guy, his name is... Let me get his name. It's Cesar Zumba. And his that's, I think, the first one I saw. There's other guys, but his channel is really cool, or is very slick. He's got, it's two people on a soapbox, so it's just gravity. They just start at the top of the mountain, go down the mountainous roads, and they probably get up to about, I think the fastest I've seen was like 70 miles an hour, which is pretty fast, but usually not going that
really
fast.
fast.
And it's rain. A lot of times it's cloudy. It's raining. It's, they're just, but it's two guys. So there's a guy like who's ballast, or it's like the motorcycle racing with the sidecars. The guy who would hang out, lean over when they're taking turns. So there's a guy driving, and then the other guy's kind of behind and just looking out for other cars, and not real cars. Even though there are real cars on the road, sometimes it seems like they don't really close the roads off. I think they try to, but sometimes it's like, whoa, there's a car suddenly on the road. But so they have an extra guy who leans into turns, so he's just kind of hanging on and extra weight, so they can go around the turns faster. But
is that like a luge? Do they do that on the luge too? Is that what?
Do they have two?
That's what the job of. Well, you're thinking of bobsled, not
Bobsled,
luge.
is
Luge
it?
is
Okay.
a single man
Okay,
sport.
Yeah.
luge is single. Okay,
I think.
Bobsled
But there
has
is a
more.
double or skeleton. One of those is weird.
Oh,
Didn't
skeleton.
They do something.
Is that it?
I don't know.
Is that the one with the leaning person?
It was Well, I remember the motorcycle racing. They do that with a sidecar, and it's basically like a platform. It's like a sidecar, but the guy can jump around to the other side and lean over when they're turning.
Oh yeah,
And
I
they
remember
can
that.
just lean over. That's a big motorcycle thing, but it's like basically a three-wheeled motorcycle. It's pretty entertaining. It's just, it's very, very amateurish, but they take it seriously. And some of these guys are, they really work on their cars, obviously, and it's like, it's all about, it's like Boy Scouts, like
The cars, Pinewood Derby.
Pinewood Derby, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
that. That's what soapbox derby is. Anyway,
Soapbox derby. Yeah, Pinewood Derby is the little
Little
cars. Soapbox derby is the big cars.
but the same intensity of like kind of building
obsessing,
your own.
your car, building your little car, and it's very dramatic. I mean, they're on these mountain roads. They're in Ecuador. It's like the Andes. It's like barreling down these twists, and it's all the switchbacks, and it's really great. But and there's a couple things I haven't watched, but I want to watch. These are actual movies, believe it or not.
Really?
Or no, one is a movie. The one is a movie. Just one, yeah. This is the only movie I want to watch, other than the one we're watching tonight. It's the Wim Wenders documentary about
Oh yeah,
Anselm Kiefer.
yeah.
A couple of friends of mine just saw it last night, and I didn't go. But it's still there. It's at the Music Box for another week. But it's in 3D.
Yeah.
And it's just a documentary about this German sculptor. And Wim Wenders, the German director, did it. And it looks really dramatic and amazing. It's only an hour and a half long. So I looked at that. I was like, oh, okay. It's not ridiculously long. I don't know. I was thinking of Wim Wenders, like, what is it, Kings of the Road or something. That's, I think, about his one movie in the 70s. Or I think I watched it once. It was like 3.5 hours long or something. This isn't that long. That's tempting to see.
I think I saw something recently where there's a documentary. I know that there's a documentary about Fitzcarraldo, right? Called
Burden of Dreams.
Burden of Dreams. I've seen both Fitzcarraldo and Burden of Dreams. You've seen them together in a movie theater,
Right at the Music Box.
But
right?
I think there's now a documentary about Burden of Dreams and Fitzcarraldo.
There's a Werner Herzog documentary, right?
Right.
Because he's written a autobiography.
Oh,
and then
maybe
there's,
that's what it is. It's just a Herzog documentary.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's another thing that I want to not watch, but listen to. I just noticed came out today is Adam Buxton, his podcast, who I really enjoy listening to. He's a British comedian. He just released today, the newest podcast is an interview with Werner Herzog.
Oh, wow. I'm going to listen to that on the ride home.
Yeah,
then.
it should be amazing. Looking forward to that.
I listened to a podcast about a guy. It was a guy who was revisiting a bunch of albums that were listed on some Rolling Stone list or something. He had Dave Pirner on as a guest, and they were doing double nickels on the dime. And this guy had just gotten into it. He's like, "This is a really good album." And Dave Pirner's amazing. On the interview, he's very ingratiating to this guy who's like, but it's kind of like, yeah, dude, it's been a great album for like decades, 40 years now, or whenever it came out.
It's iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was interesting. I mean, God bless him, right? He loved it. He absolutely loved it. He's like, I didn't realize that the Jackass theme song was on this album.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I cannot be a snob about this. He likes it, right? But it's also like, but then he would like go off and talk about music that he normally liked, and it wasn't good music.
I remember sharing with some musicians the Meat Puppets 2 and Up on the Sun, saying, "Oh, you got to listen to this." And they were like, "Oh, this is amazing. The only thing I know about Meat Puppets is the Nirvana thing."
Right.
And I totally forgot about that. For me, it's like, oh, I mean, it helped them, the Meat Puppets, draw attention, but I don't know if people actually went back
listen to it.
and listened to those
Well, they
records.
made a lot of money.
Yeah.
They made a lot of money for that.
Yeah, they got it.
So,
yeah.
that
Oh,
was
definitely.
good.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I love that.
It's like the Digits
Right.
with the record. What was
Yeah.
it?
Killboy Powerhead was covered by the Outcast.
Not Outcast, right?
Outcast.
Isn't Outcast the hip hop? Out.
Oh. Not Outcast. Whoops. I don't know.
It was like a
skate
flute version of Killboy Powerhead, right?
Flute. No, they kind of
The
covered
guy
it straight.
from Outcast.
Oh,
did
I see
Andre
what you're saying.
3000
Oh,
did a
wow,
flute
that one
album.
went right over my head.
Sorry.
I'm not hip
I'm
enough
just trying to
know
keep it
Outkast.
current
I
for
just
you.
know double nickels on the dime. I don't know what this Outcast is.
See, now I'm just going to be sitting here in old man mode trying to remember the name of that band that was the
Offspring.
Offspring.
Yeah,
There we go.
Same difference. Cobain did that. He brought a lot of attention to the guy that produced Zoom's Helium Octopede.
Oh, the Wipers. Greg Sage.
Greg
yeah.
Sage, yeah.
Saw them. I saw them in Champaign mid-'80s.
The Wipers?
Yeah. Who were they with? Was that with like DC3, Des Katina? Maybe they played with that.
Really?
I feel like it was a crazy show like that. Where it was like the Wipers, and I didn't get it at the time. It was weird. Well, he had a scarf on his head, and I didn't like that. It was not the right time to have a bandana on your head.
Oh.
But I hadn't heard the records, right? So I didn't know what was going on.
The only show I saw in Champaign, I think ever, was when we all went to that Codeine show, and then we hung out with them afterwards in your apartment.
Yeah, they slept over at your house.
Codeine, yeah.
They blew my mind. I liked the record, and then I loved them live.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Forgot about that.
Yeah.
By the way, credit where credit is due. A listener by the name of John to the podcast turned me on to that Herzog doc. That's how I found out about it. So, hi, John. Just wanted to give him a shout out. I watched a couple things before I go into the main thing I want to talk about. I watched Godzilla -1. It was awesome. By far the best Godzilla movie. The narrative of it was structured very similarly to The Host. I forget the guy's name who made The Host. He also made that anti-rich people movie.
Yeah, Snowpiercer.
Yeah, that director.
Yeah, the anti-rich people movie.
But he didn't.
Parasite.
Parasite. He didn't make, which was a ripoff of Martyrs, which we've gone over before.
Oh.
But Godzilla -1 was fantastic and a fairly low budget for a film of that caliber. Really, really good movie. And then I watched the original Suspiria, which was amazing, incredible film.
I saw that at the film center, like a film copy
Oh, wow.
20 years ago. Well, 20 years ago. It's probably 20 years ago. But yeah, that's the first time I'd seen it. I didn't know anything about Giallo. It was the month they were showing all those Giallo Italian horror movies.
Maybe it's Suspiria is the film about how like things just keep going progressively wrong for this woman and it just doesn't ever get better. I think that's what it was. I was surprised it was a good movie because I had watched the remake previously and it was bad. So I didn't get that.
And am I right? Was the remake done by the daughter? Is that true? Because she directs.
Is it? No.
Wasn't she the one who was going out with Anthony Bourdain? Dario Argento's daughter?
Wow.
Is that right? Am I totally mixing up a bunch of things?
I don't think she made Suspiria, but maybe she did.
She's a director, though. His daughter.
Can
right?
we agree that Italians by far are the best filmmakers? Like, at least 6 out of every 10 great filmmakers are Italian.
So I'm reading Francis Ford Coppola, the book about Francis Ford
He's
Coppola.
Italian.
Yeah. Yes, I know. That's why I'm bringing up Path to Paradise.
Oh,
It's
okay.
very interesting. Yeah, he talks a little bit about the Italian thing, the family. Yeah, fascinating. Nicolas Cage's father is the older brother, was like the special one. You know, Francis was the loser.
Well, that's what they always say. Like, Peyton Manning's older brother was supposed to be the best quarterback of them all.
And then Francis kind of leapfrogged his brother, who was a professor.
I watched The Killing of a Sacred Deer
Oh,
and The Lobster.
yeah. How'd that go?
I don't know. What are those?
Those are the, what's his name movies, the Greek guy.
He's not Italian.
Yeah, so those are good movies, and they're not Italian.
They're really good. They're like very Kubrick-esque
Yeah,
in style.
definitely.
It's almost like Kubrick. I think Rick had mentioned on another podcast that Kubrick has become a style now. They were great, super depressing, especially The Lobster really bummed me out. The Killing of a Sacred Deer is a clever take on a home invasion film. So that's all I'll say about it. But it's like if you took a home invasion film and inverted it, that's The Killing of a Sacred Deer. And it was so good.
I've seen both, but for me, I thought my sense memory, just trying to remember the emotions and the feelings, I remember feeling like The Lobster was funny and Killing a Sacred Deer was just pretty brutal.
They're both funny. There's humorous moments in them. They're both really depressing, though. Oh, Lobster bummed me out. Maybe I'm just in a bad place, guys.
I mean, it is, now that I think about it, there are some pretty depressing things that happen in it, right?
Yes. Anyway, that's all I've got. We'll go over a couple things and then we'll wrap up because we have to watch our movie today. In Color Me Impressed, where we talk about the things that are out in the world that we'd like to call attention to. Richard Normal Valentine, I can never get that name right. I think 4 singles or 8 singles. I don't know how you call it, but they're great. Same old with Wild Honey. You got A Little Rain with Tomorrow's Teardrops. Nothing Here with What You're Doing to Me, and Alive Without a Control. All great. Bully Pulpit's Natural Flavors, I mentioned on the last Fast Forward. Incredible record, now on vinyl. I had some hot seat questions.
Uh-oh. That's what I was going to ask. Hot seat. I got a hot seat for you, too.
No, that's not how it works.
Well, it does now. Go ahead.
First question to Jim. Are we like-minded?
You mean as a species?
You can answer that however you want. I meant the 3 of us, but if you want to answer it more broadly.
I think you guys are the same. You're nothing like me. I don't know what you guys are talking about most of the time.
There's Jim,
Yeah.
and there's everyone else.
Right.
That's a good answer. I didn't know.
What does that even mean, like-minded? I mean, I think, I am thinking a lot about this because we're going through, like, interview, looking for a new dean and looking for a new faculty member, and that process, I'm not on any of the search committees, but that process of, I really came to a realization, there's this whole thing about bias and hiring people who are like you, but then there's also the kind of more subtle thing that happens when people say things like, I really resonated with that person, or I could see myself working with this person, and really that's just whenever I say that, or somebody else says it, it's basically like, I'm looking in the mirror and I'm seeing a person exactly like me, or it's like, this person is just wonderful and I like them. It's just bias, right? It's just like, oh, yeah, I can really see myself working with this person for 30 years, and it's like, oh, it's because it's, somebody exactly like you, and you should push back against that. So I'm super, that idea of like-minded, and it's just kind of like, we're 3 dudes, same age, a lot of the same cultural background. So even if
Double nickels on the dime.
double nickels on the dime,
Yeah.
exactly. It is kind of like-minded.
Yeah, I say that a lot about Italians. There is a term for that in our bias training at work. We call that mini-me syndrome.
Yeah, that's great. That's a perfect.
All right, so here's Rick's hot seat question. When a merge is on the horizon, you're driving. So you're driving. When a merge is on the horizon, do you get in the eventual lane that everybody has to merge to? Do you pass everyone in the other lane and then dive in at the last moment? Or do you straddle both the lanes
I hate that.
to prevent others from cutting?
I just did this today. I move over.
You get into the eventual lane early and suffer with everyone else.
I am aware. I saw some video maybe some program, some science program about traffic studies, and apparently I've said this before, I feel like the selfish zipper merge is more efficient. Basically, what a selfish zipper merge is that the people in the right, let's say the right lane is closing, right? Driving up all the way to the merge and zipping in, right? So zippering in, merging in at that sort of last possible moment. That's actually more efficient than the people moving over to the left.
Yeah, I've heard that too. Yeah. You're all supposed to fill up all the lanes.
I'm really torn because I get mad at the people who are like zipping down, all the way to the end. And then but I also get mad at the truck driver who just winds up sitting there blocking everything because I know that the selfish zipper merge is better, but I also won't do the selfish zipper merge because just the name itself expresses why it's a problem. It feels selfish, right? It feels like, oh, I'm going to get ahead. Sorry. I don't think you were expecting a much deeper.
No, that's exactly what I was expecting. That's why I asked it.
Well,
Okay.
We're like-minded, so
the answer is you just go down the shoulder full speed over on the left.
Yeah. Definitely had a shoulder driver.
It's all wide open.
Yeah.
It's a whole special lane. No one ever uses that.
lane
Never
much,
use that lane. Yeah, I had
Unless
a shoulder
there's,
driver
like,
today.
Giant, truck tire shreds laying, you just have to ride over those. And
I had one more question. My mother-in-law just passed away, so I've been thinking
yeah.
about this a lot. This is for Jim. What is the answer to life? What are we doing here?
wow. Thank you for asking me that, Chris.
Let's go into Rick Rubin mode. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot to ask you guys. We need to start this podcast with 2 minutes of meditation before. Have you heard that lately with Rick Rubin? Like anytime there's an interview?
No.
I'd like us to sit quietly for 2 minutes before we begin.
And is it like this? Is it like,
Yeah. Just breathe in, breathe out. He makes everybody meditate that interviews him.
The thing is, I listened to that podcast for a little bit, and I stopped because it was like, if I want to listen to Rick Rubin masturbate, I'll just get a hotel room next to his wherever he travels. Well, that's a blue joke for this podcast. Jim, what do you got?
that's what I think you just summed it up there. That's the,
Okay, with that, we'll ask Jim to announce our film.
Oh, no. I got a hot
sorry,
seat question
sorry.
for you, Chris.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, I prepared. I've had this in my notebook
This
here
isn't
for
how
like
this segment works.
3 months.
If it doesn't go well, the editor will just take it out.
Chris, are you a pioneer, a guardian, a driver, or an integrator?
In my company, we all get tested on this stuff. Is that how you got this?
I heard something about it was in some kind of, was it a blog or some kind of podcast? And then they were talking about, it might have been a productivity thing, or they were talking about,
I've been exposed to this through my work. I'll say that. I took the test, and I am notably, and this people continue to talk about this, the only person who came out in dead center of the four things. They've never seen. It's like there's like 1% wiggle here or there, but they're like it's not possible. And I said, in my job, being successful is being a chameleon.
Mm-hmm.
You are there to be all four of those things, and hopefully you apply them at the right time.
when are you announcing your candidacy for president of the universe or whatever?
Soon.
That's the Timothy Leary story, is like when he went to jail, right? And then they gave him a psychological test, and he had helped write it, right? It had been one of his early, like before he started doing the psychedelic research, I think it was like he had been researching intelligence.
I hope he got an A then.
It's like, no, he knew exactly how to fill it out to be perfect, right?
Awesome. Anyway, good question. Jim, how about teeing up our film today?
So you were watching a film called Siesta?
Is that true? Who do we need to talk to find out?
That sounds like a question.
Yeah. Is it, what are we watching?
I took a siesta today.
Which I think is from 1987. I should have actually got the video right here. No, it's
1986, right?
86, I think, yeah. I've never seen it before. All the other movies I've chosen for this podcast are things I'd seen back in the day in the 80s on VHS and like the whole thing. But this I'd never seen before, and I just heard about it a couple of years ago. And again, back to Alexei Sayle, British comedian who is on The Young Ones, and he has this podcast, and he was talking, well, it wasn't on his podcast where he talked about it, but it was on a different podcast, which is Richard Herring's Leicester Square Theatre podcast, which is another British comedian, and he was interviewing Alexei Sayle, and Richard Herring asked him, he always asks, he always introduces people with like the worst thing they've ever done, or we're all here to for blah 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 whatever, and he always finds terrible things that people have been in, and he started asking him about this movie Siesta, and Alexei Sayle was like, went on about this insane movie he was on, basically starred in the late 80s, and so I was like, oh, have to watch that. It's like not available anywhere, or you can't stream it, I don't think, and it was never on DVD, so it was only on VHS, and I got a copy on eBay for very cheap, of course, because it's Siesta and nobody knows anything about it, and jinxing it here, a mint copy of the VHS, and we're going to watch it on VHS. Got a couple machines, a backup or two. It stars Ellen Barkin and Gabrielle Byrne and Julian Sands, Isabella Rossellini, Martin Sheen, Alexei Sayle, I said, Grace Jones, and Jodie Foster.
And this was when you brought this up. And did you send us a link to the preview?
It was the trailer, and then we watched the film UCLA showed it and had a panel. We watched the panel.
Right, it was the UCLA Film and TV Archive from, I think it's 2019, and was an interview with Mary Lambert is the director, and Ellen Barkin and Jodie Foster were on this panel when they were talking about it. But which is full of spoilers. I didn't watch the whole thing. I started watching it, and then it was like, oh, they start talking about...
Yeah, I haven't watched the panel yet.
Yes.
But just the trailer, watching that, it was just like every name that would pop up. You'd be like, oh.
Yeah, it keeps going. It's
and
like...
then every name that would pop up, I don't think I've ever felt that way. It's supposed to feel that way, like with those trailers with stars, but it's like a movie you've never heard of.
Yeah.
And then every name that comes up, it's just like, oh, what?
Yeah.
They're in this? And it's just like, why have I not heard of this movie?
Soundtrack by Miles Davis.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And
Yeah,
it's
amazing.
Like, wow. None of us have ever seen this movie. We're going to see what it's all about.
Excellent. We'll pause there, and hopefully our delicious Lito's Pizza will have arrived.
Shill.
And we'll be having that as we watch the film. So we'll see you all in a week after we've watched Siesta. Lost and Found and Rewound is fully funded by Lost and Found and Rewound Foundation funds. Lost and Found and Rewound does not use crowdfunding because our listeners have better things to do with their funding. There's no need to post reviews of Lost and Found and Rewound because our listeners have more valuable things to do with their time. In all sincerity, thank you for listening to the show. We truly appreciate it.
Lotus Pod.